Good day, everyone. We are the Group 5 representing Peter Singer's Practical Ethics, the Biomedical Ethics, Chapter 7, Taking Life in Humans. Peter Singer is a popular Australian moral philosopher, which one of his works during 1979, Practical Ethics, serves as an introduction to applied ethics, which includes the taking of life in humans. Like abortion, providing aid in dying is highly controversial. According to the dictionary, euthanasia refers to a gentle and easy death, but is now used to refer to the killing of those who are incurably ill and in great pain or distress in order to spare them further suffering. Within the usual definition of euthanasia, there are three different types, each of which raises distinctive ethical issues. We have the voluntary, involuntary, and non-voluntary. Voluntary euthanasia is a euthanasia carried out at a voluntary request of the person killed, who must be, when making the request, mentally competent and adequately informed. In killing a person who has made such a request, has reaffirmed it from time to time, and no one could truly claim to be acting with her consent, and this would therefore be voluntary euthanasia. In Netherlands, a series of court cases during 1980s upheld a doctor's right to assist a patient to die. The courts did not distinguish between providing a patient with a prescription for a lethal dose of a drug and giving the patient a lethal injection. In fact, in the Netherlands, most doctors think it is better that the physician is present when the patient dies to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Later on, in 2002, the Dutch Parliament legalized voluntary euthanasia as long as doctors comply with certain guidelines. Involuntary euthanasia is when the person killed is capable of consenting to her own death but does not do so, either because she is not asked or because she is asked and chooses to go on living. Simply, it is carried out without respect for the person's wishes. Admittedly, this definition lumps two different cases under one heading. There is a significant difference between killing someone who chooses to go on living and killing someone who has not consented to being killed but if asked would have consented. Killing someone who has not consented to being killed can properly be regarded as euthanasia only when the motive for killing is the desire to prevent unbearable suffering on the part of the person killed. These two definitions leave room for a third kind of euthanasia. If a human being is not capable of understanding the choice between life and death, euthanasia will be neither voluntary nor involuntary, but non-voluntary. Non-voluntary euthanasia is carried out on a person who is unable to understand the difference between life and death and has not previously expressed his wishes. Infanticide or infant euthanasia is a type of non-voluntary euthanasia that is performed in infants. A premature infant, like a fetus, is not a person and cannot be claimed to have a right to life, whether impaired or not. Infants lack characteristics like rationality, autonomy, and self-awareness. Thus, killing them cannot be equated with killing normal human beings or any other self-aware beings. A case in 1988 where an infant, Samuel Renares, had choked on a balloon and 8 months later was still on life support in the hospital. His father went to the hospital, pulled the gun on the staff, shut off the ventilator, and held the staff at gunpoint until Samuel died. Obviously, such cases raise different issues from those raised by voluntary euthanasia. There is no desire to die on the part of the person killed. The question can be raised whether, in such cases, the death is carried out for the sake of the infant or for the sake of the family as a whole. Life and death decisions for disabled infants. The difference between killing disabled and normal infants lies not in any supposed right to life that the latter has and the former lacks, but in the other considerations about killing. Most obviously, there is the difference that often exists in the attitudes of the parents. It is different when the infant is born with a serious disability. Birth abnormalities vary. Some are trivial and have little effect on the child or its parents, but others turn the normal joyful event of birth into a threat to the happiness of the parents and any of other children they may have. Singer let us assume that the parents do not want the disabled child to live. The disability is so serious in contrast to the situation of unwanted but normal child today. There are no other couples keen to adopt the infant. This is a realistic assumption even in a society in which there is a long waiting list of couples wishing to adopt normal babies. Prior to the existence of you, the infant exists. His life can be expected to contain a positive balance of happiness over misery. To kill him will deprive him of his positive balance of happiness. Therefore, it would be wrong. However, if we favor the total view rather than the prior existence view, then we have to take account of the probability that when the death of a disabled infant will lead to the birth of another infant with better prospects of a happy life, the total amount of happiness will be greater if the disabled infant is killed. The loss for the happy life for the first infant is outweighed by the gain of a happier life for the second. Therefore, if killing the hemophiliac infant has no adverse effect on others, it would, according to the total view, be right to kill him. Analysis. Although Singer only applies the replaceability argument to disabled infants, the argument appears to apply equally to all infants. In the case of infants with disabilities whose lives are still worth living, the justifiability of a decision to end the infant's life will be determined by which viewpoint we take. Even after considering numerous objections such as abortion, the primary conclusion remains clear. On the statement of Singer that killing a disabled infant is not ethically equivalent to killing a person, and it is not often immoral at all. Other non-voluntary life and death decisions. Many accident victims who are in vegetative states or in comas who have little possibility of recovery have never expressed a desire to be euthanized in this condition. If they are unconscious, their lives have no intrinsic value, and continuing life support will be against their best interest if the balance of their experience is negative. Justifying voluntary euthanasia. It entails the killing of a rational and self-aware person. For instance, some people with terminal diseases prefer to die but are unable to do so. Should a doctor have the power to end someone's life? If yes, then the following details should be addressed. First is the concern that a policy allowing this would put other people in fear of their lives does not apply. Second is the concern for the satisfaction of a person's preferences counts in favor of voluntary euthanasia. Third is the theory of a right to life based on a person's desire for continued existence does not apply. Lastly is the respect for autonomy counts in favor of voluntary euthanasia. Therefore, voluntary euthanasia occurs only when, to the best of medical knowledge, a person is suffering from incurable and painful or extreme distressing condition. In these circumstances, one cannot say that to choose to die quickly is obviously irrational. The strength of the case for voluntary euthanasia lies in this combination of respect for the preference or autonomy of those who decide for euthanasia and the clear rational basis of the decision itself. When information about ending one's life is made easily available, people may decide to end their lives with such a clear rational basis. Legal regulated voluntary euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide have far less potential for abuse, and when they are available, there is no need to make it easy for people to find out how to kill themselves. Not justifying involuntary euthanasia. Would it ever be possible to justify involuntary euthanasia on paternalistic grounds to save someone extreme agony? We can imagine a case in which the agony is so great and so certain that it overrides all four reasons against killing self-aware beings. Yet to make this decision, one would have to be confident that one can judge when a person's life is so bad as to be not worth living, and that one is in a better position to make the judgment than the person herself. However, if in real life we are unlikely ever to encounter a case of justifiable involuntary euthanasia, then it may be best to dismiss from our minds the fanciful cases in which one might imagine defending it and treat the rule against involuntary euthanasia as for all practical purposes absolute. If the person does not want to die, then the four reasons against killing self-aware beings do not apply. Euthanasia is thus not justified. Active and passive euthanasia. Active euthanasia, in the sense that if a person is actively euthanized, it signifies that their death was caused by external intervention rather than natural causes, most often through a fatal injection or the voluntary ingestion of a lethal combination of medication. Passive euthanasia. It happens when a person is permitted to die by withholding therapy that keep them alive. Thus, even if ways to keep a person alive are available, a person who is passively euthanized is permitted to die of natural causes. Often an act and omission have the same consequences. In many cases, the consequences of painlessly killing are in fact better than the consequences of simply allowing death. In such cases, we are often more human to animals than we are to people. The slippery slope from euthanasia to genocide. Some fear that permitting active euthanasia will obliterate a clear line between justifiable and wrongful killing. Akin to what happened during the Holocaust, it's difficult to see how euthanasia rules based on respect and concern for patients' best interest may lead to policies that kills them against their will. Therefore, a policy of euthanasia based on good ethical principle may actually strengthen society's ability to resist unjustifiable killing. This ends our presentation. Thank you for listening.